welcome back to another episode of God Built This Podcast. I'm your host, Maxine. I'm on episode 280. Look at us in the 80s now. Hello. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I appreciate every listen. Make sure you are subscribed, tell a friend, and leave a positive review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and on YouTube. Be sure to also follow God Built This Podcast on Instagram, God Built This Pod. So, let's get into these topics. I want to start off with Diddy again. I mean, my goodness, my God, today. I mean, the story continues to develop, and despite Cassie accepting whatever amount that they agreed on, this was I think it was a good step for her to have been so courageous, because it definitely takes courage to come forward and say, hey, I've been a victim by this man for 10 years, and though I'm no longer in a relationship with him and it's been years since we've been together, I still want some form of justice from the crimes and the acts that he has done against me, against my will. And so I think because of, when we think about justice, we only assume it to be something of the sort of, well, he's getting 25 years to life. He's going to get executed, or, stuff like that. And that's not always the case when it comes to justice. Like, typically, which is sad, but it is a statistic that everyone listening knows of a rapist. Whether that's a serial one or a one-time offender, like everyone knows someone who has either been assaulted or was the assaulter, was the one assailing and victimizing others. And often than not, that person, the perpetrator, is not going to jail, because there is a thing called rape culture that was definitely prevalent during a time in our society. I would say more so like during the 90s, early 2000s, and definitely before then. But that was a thing where it was normalized and encouraged to have your way with women as a man, and it is what it is. Since then, things have definitely changed, and there is more of a matriarchy than there is a patriarchy. I'm not saying I'm for one over the other. I'm definitely for women no longer being abused, and anyone being abused, actually. But the point is, I think for so long now, this type of behavior has been normalized in our society, and justice is not always had in the form of put him behind bars. So at the very least, let me get some money for my stress and the trauma that you have ensued upon me. Let me at least get that. So I think optically, just off rip, it definitely stunned me and others to see that, things were quickly settled and that's it. We want it to be a long run show for us, because again, all the world is a stage and everyone has I love that song. Shout out to Madonna. But seriously, all the world is a stage, and so for it to just be cut off so short like that, it was kind of anticlimactic in a way. Like, when I tell you, when everything popped off, my heart was palpitating as if I knew him personally or knew her personally. I was really so glued to just the high energy of it all, like on my Twitter timeline, on Instagram, on YouTube. Like, I was so glued in, and I was at work when everything came to surface, and I was just so anxious to finally like share my thoughts. And I created my if you follow me on God Built This Podcast on Instagram, you see that I created a reel about the Diddy and Cassie situation, and I'm really proud of that reel that I created. I think I really spliced it up very cleverly and added the charges at the end and some like intense background music. I thought it was fun. It was fun for me, but of course this is not a fun matter. But the point is, as as civilians in this world, as people, as human beings, we like a show. We like to be entertained. Are you not entertained? We like to be entertained. And so when Cassie and Diddy came to an agreement, it was a bit anticlimactic. But nonetheless, I think it is unfair for me and others to just assume that that was a ploy or it's like a malice intent behind that, and not realizing and understanding that a civil suit is different than a criminal suit. It is particularly about getting some monetary resolve to the victim, and that being a form of justice. Now, again, I forgot what I was gonna say. Again, what? But the point is, yeah. So that's that. So continuing off of the news, I think she definitely opened Pandora's box, and I'm glad that she did that. I think it is the time of reckoning for. I think it's like the black version of Me Too, and not even just like the I think it just really opened our eyes to the music industry Me Too version, because for a while it was solely focused on movie execs, media execs, and for one of our very own, aside from R. Kelly, right? And even aside from Bill Cosby, I think Diddy was also one of the ones who was one of the upper echelons in the music industry for, just in the music industry. But yes, definitely has a strong impact towards the Black community. So I noticed in the conversation, it led to people saying Jay-Z's next. And child, if that ever happens, I'm calling out of work. Like, why, Maxine? Why does it? I'll be so invested, and I'll be so tuned into how things will unfold, because it's so interesting how when one case or one person of that upper echelon space gets thrown rocks at, you see all of this unsurfaced but now surface footage of him showing himself as this perpetrator, as this bad guy, as this villain, and we're looking at it from a different lens. As for when we looked at it then, it was laughable or something that you just brushed off your shoulders. Like, I remember when I was watching Making the Band when I was younger, when that show was out, and he instructed the band members to go get him some cheesecake from the other side of New York and deliver it to me in a well-conditioned manner, and make sure you're here in 30 minutes. That was laughable for me at the time, but looking back at it now, it's like, dang, that's pretty stressful. Why would you do that? But anyway, let's get into this new development when it comes to Diddy and Cassie. So, Allegedly, Diddy coerced Cassie to get implants, to get breast implants in particularly, and he pressured her to do so, and of course she acquiesced. And after she got her breast done, he was unpleased. He felt like it turned out too big and was not happy with the result at all. He then said, "Go back. I want you to go back." I mean, he went with her back, I believe, and said he wants it to be reversed. So literally the next day, so the day she came home from her surgery, the following day, she went back to the hospital, and Diddy was like, "Yeah, take this off. Take it out, because it's too big. He doesn't like it." And this is all said from a former friend who recalls this moment. She says that this took place in 2009. And according to the insider, the music mogul was behind the idea and did most of the talking during a consultation at Dr. Frank Ryan's office in Beverly Hills. But Diddy would later become furious with the results and demanded he meet with the surgeon to have the implants reduced the very next day. Now, the surgeon, Dr. Frank Ryan, he was trying to console Diddy by saying, "Hey, look, the breasts are just swollen right now, naturally, after this surgery, and just give it a few days or a few weeks, and it's gonna get to its proper size." But Diddy was not having it. He was not having it, and he said he wanted them removed. Now, why did the surgeon follow suit? I don't know. I feel like that was pretty unethical for him to say, "Okay, let's go ahead and do it." But, money speaks volumes. Money speaks volumes. And I think what happened here was, despite his personal beliefs and his personal convictions of not wanting to do this, he still went against his convictions because maybe Diddy offered him some type of monetary reward or some type of access that he probably didn't have access to. And he went ahead and continued with this process. It's just so silly. So let's see what it says here. Dr. Ryan was like, "No way," initially. He was trying to explain to Diddy that we should wait at least 6 months to see how it heals because she was just opened up. And Diddy was like, "No, they've got to come out. Call who you need to call. They've got to come out." Okay. The witness who spoke on the condition of anonymity said the discussion took place shortly after Thanksgiving in 2009 at the office of Dr. Ryan, who died the following year in August 2010 when he accidentally drove off a cliff in Malibu while sending a text message. So that's quite disturbing. He died randomly. I mean, maybe that's not random. A lot of people text and drive when you're not supposed to. I'm guilty of that also. But he died shortly thereafter. So I'm wondering, considering how we're learning more about Diddy's just insidious ways, I wonder if he has something to do with the death of this doctor. Who knows? Or maybe it was just an accident that happened because of a foolish decision to text and drive. But this is just an example, yet another example of Diddy being an evil person, allegedly, and being this person who had complete control and autonomy over someone else's body. And I think that is just so disgusting and disturbing. And it is unfortunate that he can't go to jail for the crimes that he did against her, the alleged crimes. I'm saying alleged for legal purposes, but I do believe Cassie. I absolutely believe her 100%. And you know what I want to do right now? I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to Ice. Who am I talking about? In case y'all don't know. Y'all know. Ice from the Joe Budden podcast. He's one of the co-hosts on the show. And I like how in the latest main episode, he said how he believes Cassie 100%. And what I liked about it was that he was the only person on that episode, on that couch, in the room who stood on business. He stood on business and he said straight up he believes Cassie. And what was done, like, he really just said it. And I was so impressed by that. And it's so sad that we have to be impressed by that. But unfortunately, we do live in a society where there is the bystander versus upstander approach to things. And oftentimes, it's easier to be a bystander, to not speak up and say, hey, that's wrong, or hey, that's immoral, or hey, I'm going to defend, it's easier, it's safer, or perceived to be safer to be a bystander and to be silent. So for Ice to say on this, on the very well popularized podcast that he's on, for him to say that he believes Cassie and to really just speak out about that, I was really impressed, and I was even more disappointed in the other co-hosts on the show. A lot of them just kept it very generic in their responses. Joe finally explained himself after receiving backlash for not speaking about it directly, if at all, really, in the previous episode. And he was just saying, he gave a myriad of reasons, like he said. He said, one of the reasons being Diddy listens to the pod. And it's like, what does that mean? And I like that Ice, and usually I don't give Ice his props because sometimes he annoys me. But I think he is growing on me. I feel like he is someone who is showing himself to be more confident in his views, in his positions, and even when he's wrong, he'll argue a little bit, but then eventually he'll be like, okay, all right, you got that. That's right. I realize that's, like, he shows some reflection. So I think that's really commendable about his character. So shout out to Ice for that, if you're listening. But really, shout out to him. But yeah, I was really disappointed to see the others. Every single person, everyone else on that episode didn't say anything about whether, it was, they just didn't really give a take. They were just like spitting out the news, and that was it. I don't remember what they said that much, and that really speaks to the fact that they didn't really say anything. Aside from Joe, like I said, saying Diddy watches the pod and he's afraid of if Diddy really did do the things that he did, according to what Cassie said, as far as like the threats that he would do against the men who wanted to pursue or actually did pursue Cassie, like him blowing up Kid Cudi's car and him getting into fights with other people. Joe said he would rather not experience that, and basically saying that he's afraid of Diddy, and he's in fear of that. And I just find it to be so ironic because this is Joe Budden, who has started beefs with many rappers, many people in the industry, just out of nowhere for no reason, whether it was warranted or not. He was the one who he felt like it. Oh, he's angry today. Who can I pick on? And so for him to say any way that he did of saying, "Oh, I'm afraid of another man," I just found it to be a weak moment, and I cringed. I cringed at that moment. Even Flip looked at him like, "Nigga, what?" I would have liked it had Mel been on the episode. I know she was out because she was sick. She said, according to what they said. So maybe they could circle back to the topic in the following episode, and hopefully she's on that episode, and we'll see what she says. But I wonder, would she have said what I said and said, "Yeah, I believe Cassie. I support Cassie," stuff like that. I don't know. I really don't know, because they really do pick and choose. And look, I mean, it's America, right? You're a human being. We do customize our response to things and our way of handling things and our way of creating the life that we want for ourselves. Like, we do have the right to customize our life. You know how people be like, you can't pick and choose what you want to do according to what the Bible's. You know how people like, oh, you're a Christian, right? You got to follow what the word says, and you got to, be basically regimented in that. And oftentimes the saying of "you can't pick and choose" comes from that. So it's like, after a while, I feel like as you get older, you realize, yes, you can. Yes, you can pick and choose. Actually, please pick and choose, because stop it. No one is living or speaking in a completely narrow way. We do have nuanced opinions, experiences, thought patterns. Like, it is okay to say, you know what, I don't really agree with that, but I agree with this. Or you know what, I actually like doing this, but I like it's okay to pick and choose. So you can pick and choose. But yeah, I do want to just give a shout out to Ice for that, because he really stood on business. So shout out to him. Speaking of sexual assault, I mean, oh Lord, I don't know what is happening. Actually, I do know, because of the Adult Survivors Act, which I'll get into specifically what is that, right? So this Adult Survivors Act is a new, let's see, I have it here saved. Oh, excuse me. There we go. Okay. So the Adult Survivors Act is a special New York law that created a year-long suspension of the usual time limit to sue over an alleged sexual assault. And basically, anyone who has been victimized by someone within the state of New York, they have I didn't save that one. That's why. I'm like, that's not the one I saved. But basically, with this act, you have the legal right to file against this alleged perpetrator of yours, and file in the civil way, solely in a civil way. It does not speak on anything criminally, because again, I think with criminal acts, like I said before in the previous episode, with criminal acts, there is a statute of limitation. I think I'm wondering if that's the same thing for murder. But nonetheless, there is a statute of limitation for criminal acts. So it went into effect late November of last year, and the expiration of that is set on November 24th. So this explains why there has been an onslaught of survivors of sexual assault coming forward and saying, yeah, I want some justice, and they've been filing lawsuits against their perpetrators. So the law has given adult survivors of sexual assault 1 year to file lawsuits against their perpetrators, and it is set to expire on November 24th. So yeah, that is why we're seeing so many cases coming out the woo-ha about these alleged acts that has taken place. And again, this is only focused in New York, so I don't know about other states. But yeah, anyone who has assaulted anyone in New York, you have 1 day to get sued, basically. So, which one? There's so many to speak on. So let's start with the New York City mayor, which I'm very disappointed to hear. My goodness, my God, today. So the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, black man, he has had some controversial reactions to some of the things that he has put in place, such as his support of the migrants in New York. Um, People feeling like he actually, let's see, because I think initially, um, he was in favor of having more migrants in New York. But then I think I'm hearing something different. So let's see what it says here. In provocative remarks at a town hall meeting, Mayor Eric Adams said that he did not see an ending to the migrant crisis and renewed his push for federal help. Okay. Yeah, I think it was different because initially he wanted, like, he was welcoming migrants to come in. And I think that was more so because of how it looks optically. How can I appear to be this, this supporter of foreigners wanting a better life? Come to New York, come to New York. And so I think it bit him in his ass because once he realized, oh, wow, they're really coming to New York, but they're coming with, I don't want to say diseases, but they're coming with their own way of doing things that may be contradictory to what we accept in New York. I'm hearing that a lot of the migrants they're riding on mopeds and it's causing a lot of frustration, inconveniences, and just a myriad of things, a myriad of complaints because it's getting in the way of parking. Just the cars in general in New York are finding it a hard time to deal with these mopeds. So there is a migrant crisis happening there, and people are visibly sleeping on the streets. And it's not just like, oh, homeless people, just typical homeless people sleeping on the streets. It is actually more of migrants doing so, which is interesting because I remember hearing that the migrants were getting hotel rooms. Like, the mayor was putting them up in hotel rooms. I don't know if that expired and now they're sleeping on the street. I don't know, but child, I don't know. Anyway, let's get back to why I brought him up. So he has been accused of sexual assault. Child, what's it saying? The chicken has come to roost. The chicken has, where does that even come from? That's such a stupid ass. Chickens have come to roost. Yeah, what does that even mean? I think I know what it means, but I want to make sure. I'll be saying things. I'll just we messing the whole thing up. Okay, yeah, I'm saying it correctly. Yes, chickens come home to roost. Okay, has come. I didn't say the home part. So it means the consequences of doing wrong always catch up with the wrongdoer. Ooh. But where does that come from? Let's see. It says the fact that chickens usually come home to rest and sleep has long been known, but the idea was used figuratively only in 1809 when Robert Southey wrote, quote, "Curses are like young chickens. They always come home to roost," from the book The Curse of Kehama. Fascinating. Okay, so Eric Adams was accused of sexual assault from 1993. And this woman decided to come forward now. Now that time is almost up, according to the Adult Survivors Act. And she is filing legal filings against him. This literally just came out, and it's a doozy. New York City Mayor Eric Adams has been accused of sexually assaulting a woman in 1993, according to a legal summons filed Wednesday. The 3-page filing does not contain details of the alleged assault, but names Adams, the Transit Bureau of the New York Police Department, and the New York Police Department Guardians Association as defendants. My God, today. So everybody, every government agent, basically, that's what I'm hearing. Plaintiff was sexually assaulted by defendant Eric Adams in New York, in 1993, while they both worked for the city of New York. Okay, so they were co-workers. Not just, I don't know if they were like close co-workers, like they had the same co-working space, but they were co-workers nonetheless. The filing seeks a trial and $5 million in relief. Interesting. So when you seek a trial, does that mean hoping for an outcome in jail? Or, like, you know what I mean? What does that mean exactly? Because if it's under this act, I'm assuming she's solely, because the act specifically focuses on civil cases and earning or receiving a monetary outcome after the filing. So we'll see what happens. It was filed in state Supreme Court in Manhattan. The woman's attorney did not immediately return an email request for comment on Thursday. In remarks to reporters on Thursday, Adams denied sexually assaulting anyone and said he did not remember meeting the woman. I mean, of course you don't remember. That was in 1993. I mean, of course I wish, I do wonder, why didn't she come forward anytime sooner? I'm not saying you have to come forward within the following year, or even within the year of the assault, right? Again, it takes time to finally even realize you've been violated. But then that was 1993. I was 2 years old. Like, that's a long time ago. I think one of my pet peeves, let me just say this. One of my pet peeves is when people be like, the 90s, yeah, that wasn't so long. That was like yesterday. That wasn't so long ago. Or the 80s, that wasn't so long ago. That was relative. It was a long time ago. Like, let's cut it out. I know it feels like we miss it, or I don't know what it is. I think it's like this nostalgia. Like, a lot of us are imprisoned by the past, and I get that. I'm a victim of that too. Like, I would reminisce on things from the past, or I would want to relive moments from the past, and it's like, it's in the past. I can't do that, right? But this idea of the 90s being not that long ago, no, it was a long time ago. Like, stop. The 80s, no, you know what? I would hate when people say 1960s was not that long ago. What are we talking about, right? Yes, it was. Yes, it is. It is a long ass time ago. Y'all think only 1800s are reserved for a long time ago type of things. No, 1960 is a long time ago. Oh, that's such a pet peeve of mine. It's a long time ago. What are we talking about? Anyway, 1993, that's a long time ago. So I do understand how he may not even remember. I'm not excusing him. I'm not. I know y'all like to think. I like to excuse men. No, not all the time. But this time I really don't think he truly remembers, because it was a long time. It is a long time ago. So with that being said, he's of course going to vehemently deny. And honestly, who really admits, yes, I did. You got me. Like, I don't know. I've never heard of someone saying, yes, I am guilty of these crimes. I should have never done that. Or, like, what? Of course she's going to deny. That's all I'm saying. Like, I've never heard, and please educate me if I'm wrong, because I really never heard of anyone saying I did those things. you know, even that clip that I posted of Diddy just a year ago, because when he got that Lifetime Achievement Award, he that wasn't a long time ago. That is an example of not long ago, because that was literally last year, if not the year before last. And in that moment, he was saying how he was in a dark place. And that's what I said in my reel, or that's what I showed in my reel. Oh, I did such a good job in that Instagram reel. So shout out to that. If you haven't watched it yet, go ahead and watch it. I did that, but I think there's a lot to be said with that, because what is a dark place? Like, what do you mean with that? Be specific. But people would use those umbrella terms just to kind of say, yes, I did those things, without saying directly, I did those things. So who knows? We'll see how this unfolds. Up next, Diddy, not Diddy. Let's do it again. My bad. Up next, Jamie Foxx. Oh, this hurt me, but I believe everything now. I believe everything, but I think I feel like all of these cases are true. I really do. There are times when I've read these different examples of being Me Too'd, right? I thought many of them were just women piggybacking or wanting to get exposure, or wanting to get that that popularity from being a victim. Like, there was this like victim currency happening. So I definitely think that was a case. But for what's happening now, especially starting off with Cassie, being that she was so detailed and very specific, there was no doubt in my mind. Like, I really believed it. And now that this Adult Survivors Act, is expiring in the following day after this recording, or the day of this recording, or the day of you listening to this recording, I really do think people are finally saying, you know what, let me just go ahead and hope for the best with this lawsuit, because I need justice. Anyway, so Jamie Foxx is being accused of a rooftop sexual assault that allegedly happened 8 years ago in New York City. According to the lawsuit obtained by TMZ, Foxx was at Catch NYC in Roof in August 2015, around 11 p.m. When the plaintiff arrived to be seated in the rooftop lounge and bar, she says she noticed Jamie one table away. Around 1 a.m., the plaintiff's friend asked Foxx if he'd take a photo with her, and the plaintiff, she claims he said, "Sure, baby, anything for you," and seemed intoxicated at the time. She claims he took more photos and commented, "Wow, you have that supermodel body. You smell so good," and told her she looked like Gabrielle Union. Gabrielle Union is probably thinking, how did I get into this? Jane Doe claims Foxx pulled her by the arm to the back area of the rooftop, where he allegedly placed both hands on her waist, moved them under her top, and started rubbing her breasts. She claims she attempted to step away and noticed a security guard and others who saw what had happened, but they chose to walk away. In the docs, the plaintiff claims Foxx then allegedly slid his hand into her pants and put his fingers on and in her vagina and anus. She says her friend came over and saw what was happening, and then Jamie stopped touching her. She claims she was injured and had to undergo medical treatment and suffered pain, suffering, and emotional distress as a result of the sexual assault, abuse, assault, and battery. She's suing Foxx, Catch, and its employees for compensatory and punitive damages. So far, there has been no response from Jamie and his team, and this is where we are. Okay. I do believe it. Now, I believe it because of the details, and I could totally visualize what she's describing. I think a couple of things are happening here. I think they both were drunk. Because, not to excuse them. I'm not trying to excuse them. I'm not. I'm just saying both of them were intoxicated. She said clearly he was, but nowhere did she say she was too. I'm not trying to victim blame. I'm not. I'm just saying, I think for him to be able to grab her arm and pull her to the back area of the rooftop, where he allegedly placed both hands on her waist, moved them under her, like all of that to happen in a crowded area, he clearly was out of his mind. And I think she was a little intoxicated herself. She may not have been completely to his level of intoxication, but I think she was under the influence. Because you can't tell me someone is doing that to you in the midst of everybody, and like you're in a public space and you're not saying, what are you doing? Stop. Okay, Jamie, bye. Good night. Like, I feel like at the very least, he'll get as far as to putting his hand around my waist. And once I felt his hand maneuver towards my breast, I would have been like, oh, okay. I would have touched his hand, pushed it off, and said my goodnight and go. You know, so I don't think she was well in her mental space to be in her right mind to move. That's my theory. That's my assumption, child. That's my assumption. She then says, she claims she attempted to step away. Okay, so she attempted to step away, but she noticed a security guard and others who saw what had happened, but they chose to walk away. So she wanted to make that point to say, again, with the bystander effect, no one did anything as they saw this happening. Now, how much did they know what was really happening? Meaning, did they know that she didn't want it? You know what I mean? Did they clearly hear her say, stop, no, what are you doing? I don't think they did, because she didn't say that. And I don't think it's, I don't know if it's fair for these employees who may have seen this to catch hell from that. Because, again, a lot of people hook up the first day, the first moment of meeting each other, because the vibes are so right, and I'm feeling you, you're so fine, I'm so fine, right? Because these things happen. But I don't want to spend energy being mad at them, because Maybe they read it as, oh, these two adults are having some fun consensually, seemingly. I'm not gonna get in the way of that. That's what I'm assuming that they may be thinking. That's what I'm assuming. Okay, but the argument now is, like, what is the law when both people are intoxicated? When both people are not well within their mind, they're under the influence, they're under some type of substance, what is the law then? Because if you're not in the right mind, are you still liable? I mean, I do believe he did that shit, and child, at the very least, pay her to provide some form of justice, because I don't think he could go to jail now since this happened in 2015. But I don't know. Ugh, Jamie, Lord. But these things happen, and I hate to sound like it's normal, but unfortunately it is normal. And when I say these things happen, I mean oftentimes when people are under the influence, whether you're under the influence also or just the other person, oftentimes when the person's under the influence and you being a woman, you are unfortunately at a disadvantage, and it is disturbing. A quick story time. Years ago, when I was in a relationship with Leprechaun Bay, I was well instilled in his life, meaning he brought me along to his friends' functions. I met many of his friends, including the guys who he called his best friends. We were at a party, someone's house party, and it wasn't even a party like that. It was just like a couple of people. We were all in the kitchen. Definitely some drinking happening. I don't remember if I drunk. I don't think I did. I wasn't drunk. I definitely wasn't drunk. And I don't think I was even drinking like that anyway. Maybe I had a drink or two, but I wasn't drunk at all. I was well within my mind, well within my right mind. Leprechaun Bay at the time, he had a little alcohol problem. I would say that, because I remember the following day speaking to him about his behavior, because he was, and that's not even the story right now, because this child, he was a lot. He just had a little alcohol, not a little. He had an alcohol problem for sure. Like, he just didn't know when to stop, would just be over the top with it. It was just it was incredibly annoying. Not even a little. It was incredibly annoying. Anyway, in that kitchen was me and a few other people, including one of Leprechaun's guy friends. And I don't remember if Leprechaun Bay was in the same room as all of us, as the rest of us. But yeah, so okay. There's an island in the kitchen. I'm by the island, and there's a counter behind the island. I don't want to say a fake name. Let's say a fake name. Let's call him Paul. So Paul, who's one of Leprechaun's Bay's close guy friends, he's standing behind me. I didn't realize he's standing behind me. I didn't really think about it as a weird thing. But anyway, so he's standing behind me, and he grabs me from my butt. Like, from, the cup of your butt as a woman, right from that little cup, he grabs me by the cup of my butt and pulls me to him. Y'all, I wish I was making this up. I was so shocked. And me being the people pleaser that I was at the time, and I'm still kind of unpacking that, but I definitely grown and not being that person anymore. The people pleaser type of person. But at the time, I was still that girl. But when he grabbed me and pulled me towards him, from my butt. And again, I don't remember if Leprechaun Babe was in the room. And if he was too drunk to even realize or to even care that his friend was doing this to me. I turn around, I'm like smiling through it. I'm like, what are you doing? And I pushed myself away from him, and that was that. And that was that. Like, nothing further happened. But that was so uncomfortable for me. And I just thought to myself, like, I know he was drinking. I know he gets a little, just like from previous moments that I spent with him collectively, I could see how he acts when he has a couple of drinks in his system. But it was just so funny to me because I think his wife was in the same house too. And I just felt, I don't know, I felt cheap in that moment. I felt like I was just expendable. Is that the word? Expendable. I just felt like this like cheap person in that moment. And, you know, I'm grateful it didn't go any further. And I'm grateful that I did, despite me being this people pleaser that I was, I'm grateful that I said something, or I pushed, my body said something for sure in that moment. But it was just disturbing. And so when I think about this case here, it just triggered me back to that memory and how, unfortunately, you know, if someone is naturally, not even naturally, but like is already someone who likes to let their sexual urges control them, when they have liquor in their system or any type of substance that could really let loose their prohibitions, you're at their will. And it's disturbing. It is disturbing. But I could see how something like that could happen. And despite me being his boy's girlfriend, and despite us all being in the same house, whether Leprechaun Babe was in the same room as us or not, but despite us being in the public space where other people were there, him still doing that, I think it just speaks to, yes, him being a creep, but also him not having the right not being in the right headspace to know this behavior is not okay. But I have stories to tell. Like, I remember being in college and something similar happened to me at the club. A guy just pulled me towards him and started rubbing my butt, and like, these things happen. And when you're in particular environments that promote such behavior, the assumption is it's okay. That, oh, well, that's why you in a club, right? Or that's why you wearing that dress, right? That's why you dancing all up on me. And it's like, you know, it is infuriating because you do want to have a good time. You don't want to mess up the mood. Because in that moment when Paul, quote unquote, did that to me, it could have gone worse, right? I'm not trying to make myself a victim per se or anything like that. I'm just saying that was enough to make me feel uncomfortable, and I'm glad it didn't go any further. But I think it's just a testament to how things are done in certain environments. And I think it's just I don't know, maybe it's a lesson to learn about being mindful of where you go. Being mindful of where you go and how cognizant are you of your body and of your mental headspace. Like, are you in your right mind? Because oftentimes if we're not in our right mind, we may find ourselves in situations that are precarious. Anyway, you all, that's all I'm gonna get into for today's episode. Definitely sexual assault. Like, ooh, Lord. But thank you so much for listening. I appreciate every listen. Make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube page. We're at 80 subscribers. Look, I'm grateful. I don't care. It's only up from here. It's only up. So thank you. Shout out to you. If you have yet to subscribe, I mean, at this point, what are we doing? Is the mic on? Hello. At this point, what are we doing? But no, go ahead and subscribe. Tell a friend, and I will check in with you all next time. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of God Built This Podcast with your host, Maxine. If you liked it, leave a review, share, and subscribe. God bless.